The 1970s were, in many ways, the golden age of the family on television. From the wholesome Waltons to the blended Brady Bunch, we were fascinated by these on-screen families. And at the heart of those shows were the kids. We watched them get their first kiss, struggle with homework, and learn valuable life lessons in 22 minutes. Plus commercials. They were impossibly talented, delivering lines with a natural charm that made them instantly lovable. Today, we're taking a look at 10 of the most iconic child stars of that decade. Maureen McCormick, beyond Marcia Brady. You can't talk about 70s TV without talking about the Brady Bunch. And you can't talk about the Brady Bunch without talking about Marcia. Maureen McCormick, with her perfect blonde hair and radiant smile, was the absolute ideal of the American teenage girl. She was popular, beautiful, and seemed to have it all on screen. Marcia Brady's biggest problem was getting hit in the nose with a football or competing with her sister, Jan. She was a cultural phenomenon. Girls wanted to be her, and boys wanted to date her. Maureen McCormick played that part to perfection, bringing a genuine sweetness to the role that made Marcia feel real. She was the star of that show in many ways, the aspirational figure for millions of kids. But the real reason her story is so compelling is because her off-screen life was the polar opposite of the squeaky clean world of the Bradys. As she later revealed in her brutally honest autobiography, here's the story. The years after the show were incredibly difficult. She struggled with the pressure of being typecast as the perfect girl next door, trying to shed the Marcia image. She found herself spiraling into serious addiction, battling cocaine use that nearly destroyed her career and her life. She described showing up to auditions high, blowing major opportunities, and hitting a profound rock bottom. It's the classic, tragic story of a child star trying to cope with the immense pressure of their past fame. But here's the inspiring part. She fought her way back. After meeting her husband, Michael Cummings, she found the strength to get sober. She focused on her family and found a new kind of peace. Today, Maureen McCormick has embraced her Brady past. She participates in reunions, appears on reality shows, and speaks openly about her struggles to help others. She didn't escape Marcia Brady. She integrated her into a much more complex and authentic life. It's a powerful story of survival. Do you think it's fair that actors get so trapped by their most famous role? Linda Blair, the girl possessed by a role from the sunshine of the Brady household. We go to a much darker place. In 1973, a film was released that didn't just scare people, it traumatized them. That film was The Exorcist, and at its center was a 14-year-old girl named Linda Blair. Let's be clear, Linda Blair's performance as Regan MacNeil is, without question, one of the most powerful and terrifying performances by a child actor in film history. The things she had to do, the emotional and psychological places she had to go to, it was astounding. She was utterly convincing, both as the sweet, innocent daughter and as the demonic entity inhabiting her body. She was nominated for an Academy Award, and she became globally, monstrously famous overnight. But that fame was a poison chalice. She wasn't celebrated like other child stars. She was feared. People couldn't separate the actress from the role. She received death threats from religious zealots who believed she was truly an agent of the devil. The media hounded her, not about her acting process, but about the film's controversial subject matter. She was a teenager forced to be the public face of a cultural firestorm. This typecasting was severe and immediate. Hollywood didn't see a talented young actress. They saw the girl with the spinning head. The A-list roles she should have gotten never materialized. She was pushed into a series of exploitation films and TV movies that often traded on her Exorcist fame, like the sequel Exorcist II, The Heretic. She also faced personal legal troubles in her late teens, which further damaged her public image. For years, it seemed like she had vanished into the world of B-movies. But Linda Blair is a survivor. Instead of fighting her past, she found a new purpose. She became a passionate and dedicated animal rights activist, founding the Linda Blair World Heart Foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to rescuing and rehabilitating abused and abandoned animals. Today, her life's work is not acting, but advocacy. She uses her fame, the very fame that once haunted her, to shine a light on animal welfare. It's a remarkable third act for someone who went through hell, both on and off the screen. Richard Thomas, the enduring legacy of John-Boy. Not every child star story is one of struggle. Some navigate the treacherous waters of Hollywood with incredible grace, and there's no better example of that than Richard Thomas. To millions of us, he will always be John-Boy Walton. The Waltons was a touchstone of 70s television. It was a show about family, integrity, and decency, and at its heart was John-Boy, the sensitive, aspiring writer who served as the show's conscience. And narrator, Richard Thomas was already an experienced actor when he took the role, but John-Boy made him a superstar. He embodied the character's intelligence and quiet strength so perfectly that the two became inseparable. He won an Emmy for the role and was the anchor of one of the most beloved shows of all time. The big question when he decided to leave the show in 1977 was, what's next? Would he be forever stuck on Walton's mountain? This is often the critical moment for a TV star. But Richard Thomas made a very smart series of choices. He immediately returned to his first love, the theater. He tackled Shakespeare and other classic plays on Broadway, reminding the critics and the industry that he was a serious, classically trained actor, not just a TV personality. Throughout the 80s and 90s, he also took on roles that were wildly different from John-Boy. Most famously, he was terrifying as the adult Bill Denbrough in the 1990 miniseries adaptation of Stephen King's It. Playing the hero in a horror story was a brilliant move, showing the range people didn't know he had. Today, Richard Thomas has one of the most respected and enduring careers of any actor from his generation. He works constantly in television, film, and especially on stage, where he remains a major star. He never ran from John-Boy. He simply built upon that foundation. This story is a testament to the power of pure talent and smart career management. McKenzie Phillips surviving the spotlight's glare. Some stories are not just cautionary, they are harrowing, and the story of McKenzie Phillips is one of the most difficult and important stories to come out of 70s Hollywood. We knew her as the smart-mouthed, rebellious teenage daughter, Julie Cooper, on the smash hit sitcom One Day at a Time. The show, developed by the legendary Norman Lear, was groundbreaking for its time. Tackling real-life issues with honesty and humor, McKenzie was a natural. She had incredible comic timing and a charisma that made her an instant teen idol. She was part of a beloved TV family, acting alongside the brilliant Bonnie Franklin and Valerie Bertinelli. But behind the scenes, her life was one of unimaginable trauma. The daughter of John Phillips of the Mamas and the Papas, she grew up in a world of rock and roll excess, as she later detailed in her shocking memoir. High on Rival, her life was filled with addiction and abuse from a terrifyingly young age. Her struggles with drugs were so severe that she was famously fired from One Day at a Time not once, but twice. Her disappearance from the show was a major Hollywood scandal at the time, but the public had no idea of the true horror of her situation. For decades, she cycled through addiction, rests, and attempts at recovery. Her vanishing act wasn't a choice. It was a consequence of a life derailed by forces far beyond what any child or teenager should ever have to face. The most remarkable part of her story is that she is still here to tell it. After years of struggle, she finally found lasting sobriety. Today, she has dedicated her life to helping others. She works as a drug and alcohol counselor at a treatment facility, using her own devastating experiences to guide people out of the darkness. She has turned her pain into a profound purpose. Her acting career was what made her famous, but her work in recovery is her true legacy. Kristy McNichol, the star who chose peace. In the late 1970s, there were few teen stars bigger than Kristy McNichol. She was a double threat, conquering both television and film. She first won our hearts as Buddy Lawrence on the acclaimed drama series Family, a role for which she won 2 Emmy Awards. She was a phenomenal young actress, able to convey a depth of emotion that was well beyond her years. She then smoothly transitioned to movie stardom, most notably in the 1980 hit Little Darlings, where she co-starred with Tatum O'Neal. That movie was a cultural moment, a frank and funny look at teenage girls coming of age. Kristy was on fire. She was talented, she was relatable, and she had a huge career ahead of her. And then, she walked away. Her retreat from the spotlight wasn't a slow fade, it was an abrupt stop. During the production of the 1982 film Just the Way You Are, she had a breakdown on set. The years of non-stop work, from the age of 8, had taken a severe toll. The immense pressure of being a household name, of carrying TV shows and movies, had become unbearable. She later revealed that she had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. The anxiety and emotional strain of the industry were simply too much for her to handle while trying to manage her mental health. So she made a brave and radical choice. She chose herself over her career. She retired from acting in the early 90s to focus on her well-being. 4 years. Nobody knew where she was or what she was doing. She didn't write a tell-all book or appear on talk shows. She simply vanished into a quiet, private life. In 2012, she publicly came out, stating that she wanted to be a role model for kids who were being bullied. Today, Christy McNichol lives a quiet life in Los Angeles, far from the Hollywood hustle. She spends her time with her partner, enjoying her privacy and focusing on her health. Her story is a powerful reminder that sometimes the most successful outcome isn't more fame or more money, but the wisdom to know when to step away from a world that is harming you. Susan Day, the reluctant partridge, who didn't have a crush on Laurie Partridge, as the brainy, beautiful, keyboard-playing daughter in the Partridge family. Susan Day was the thinking man's teen idol, while David Cassidy was the rocker. Susan Day's Laurie was the grounded, responsible one. She had a subtle, intelligent presence that made her stand out. The Partridge family was a pop culture juggernaut, spawning hit records, sold-out concerts, and a mountain of merchandise. Susan Day was a huge part of that success. After the show ended, she was determined not to be typecast, and she succeeded, building a very respectable acting career as an adult. Her biggest triumph came in the 1980s when she took on the role of Grace Van Owen in the acclaimed legal drama L.A. Law. The role was a complete departure from Laurie Partridge. Grace was a smart, tough, complex professional. Day was fantastic in the role, winning a Golden Globe and proving she was a serious, dramatic actress. It seemed like she had successfully navigated the child star transition. But Susan Day's relationship with her past has always been complicated. Unlike other casts, she has famously refused to participate in most Partridge family reunions. Reports from her castmates, particularly Danny Bonaduce, suggest she has long wanted to distance herself completely from the role that made her famous, feeling it wasn't real acting. Her decision to sever ties with her Partridge past has been a source of fascination and speculation for years. After L.A. Law and a few TV movies, her acting roles became more and more infrequent. Sometime in the early 2000s, she quietly retired from acting altogether. She has since become famously reclusive, refusing interviews and staying completely out of the public eye. She lives a quiet life with her husband, a television producer. Her story is a curious one. It's not tragic, and it's not a failure. It's the story of a successful actress who simply decided she was done with public life and has fiercely protected her privacy ever since. Jodie Foster, the ultimate success story, if there is a blueprint for how to not only survive child stardom, but to transcend it and become a Hollywood legend. That blueprint belongs to Jodie Foster. Her talent was evident from an incredibly young age. Many of us remember her from Disney films like Freaky Friday. But in 1976, at the age of 12, she took on a role that shocked the world, the part of Iris, a child prostitute in Martin Scorsese's gritty masterpiece, Taxi Driver. Her performance was so mature, so nuanced and fearless that it earned her an Academy Award nomination. It was clear she was not a typical child actor. She was a prodigy. What's so remarkable about Jodie Foster's story is the choices she made. After achieving that level of fame, instead of cashing in and taking every role offered, she did something almost unheard of for a star of her magnitude. She went to college. She enrolled at Yale University, choosing to step away from the Hollywood bubble to get an education and experience a semblance of normal life. This decision was crucial. It allowed her to grow as a person, not just as an actress. When she returned to acting full-time, she did so with a newfound maturity and intellectual depth. She then went on to win two Best Actress Oscars for The Accused and for her iconic role as Clarice Starling in The Silence of the Lambs. Today, Jodie Foster is one of the most respected figures in the film industry, not just as an actress, but as a successful director. She navigated the perils of early fame with a fierce intelligence and a protective family. Her story proves that it is possible to grow up in the spotlight without being consumed by it. She is, quite simply, the gold standard. Erin Moran, heartbreak of Joni Cunningham. This is a tough one. The story of Erin Moran is one of the most heartbreaking in a town full of sad stories. We all knew her and loved her as Joni Cunningham, Richie's feisty little sister on Happy Days. We watched her grow up on that show, from a smart-aleck kid into a young woman. Joni was a beloved character on one of the most popular shows in television history. Her on-screen romance with Chachi, played by Scott Baio, was so popular that it led to their own spin-off, Joni Loves Chachi, for a time. Erin Moran was on top of the world. She was a bona fide TV star with a hit show. But when the spin-off was canceled after just 2 seasons and she returned to a declining Happy Days, her career momentum stalled. After the show ended for good in 1984, the great roles she expected never came. She was forever seen as Joni. The reality of post-sitcom life hit her hard. Her story from that point on is a slow, sad decline that played out in the tabloids. She struggled with financial problems, reportedly losing her home to foreclosure. There were stories of depression and increasingly erratic behavior. Unlike some of her co-stars who found new roles or new careers, Erin seemed lost. Unable to escape the shadow of her happy-go-lucky TV persona, she appeared on a celebrity reality show in 2008, looking for another chance, but it didn't lead to a career revival. Her final years were marked by poverty and struggle. She passed away in 2017 at the age of 56, with the coroner reporting her cause of death was complications from stage 4 cancer. It was a tragic end for someone who brought so much joy to so many. Her story is a stark reminder of how cruel Hollywood can be when the spotlight moves on. Melissa Gilbert, America's Half Pint. Let's end on a story of resilience for 9 seasons. Melissa Gilbert was Laura Ingalls Wilder on Little House on the Prairie. We watched Half Pint run through the fields, clash with Nellie Oleson, and grow into a wife and mother on the American frontier. She was the heart and soul of that iconic show. Working alongside Michael Landon, she learned the ins and outs of television production from a young age. But growing up on TV wasn't easy. Like many child stars, she felt the pressure to be perfect. After the show ended, she struggled to find her own identity outside of Laura Ingalls. She became part of the Hollywood Brat Pack scene for a time, and has been open about her past struggles with alcoholism and addiction. But Melissa Gilbert is a fighter. She didn't let her past define her. She continued to act, starring in dozens of television movies. She also found a powerful new voice as a leader. She was elected president of the Screen Actors Guild, serving to terms and leading the union through some of its most difficult years. It was a role that required immense strength and intelligence, proving she was so much more than just a former child actress. In recent years, she's moved away from Hollywood, embracing a simpler, more rustic life with her husband, actor Timothy Busfield. She wrote a book about leaving the city for a cabin in the mountains, a life that seems, in a beautiful full-circle way, to echo the very pioneer spirit of the character that made her famous. She even ran for Congress in 2016 before having to drop out for health reasons. Melissa Gilbert's story is one of reinvention. She embraced her past, overcame her struggles, and forged a new identity as an author, a leader, and an advocate. So, there you have it. 10 kids who grew up in front of our eyes. Their stories are all so different. Triumph, tragedy, quiet retirement, and powerful reinvention. They show us that child stardom is a lottery. For every Jodie Foster, there's an Erin Moran. For every Richard Thomas, there's a McKenzie Phillips who had to fight through hell to survive. These weren't just characters on our TV screens. They were real children navigating an unreal world. And they all handled it the best they could. What did you think of our list? Which of these stars was your favorite back in the day? And are there any others you've always wondered about? Let us all know your thoughts and memories in the comments section below. I truly love reading them. If you enjoyed this walk down memory lane, please do me a favor and hit that like button. It really does help the channel grow. And if you have a friend who would love this, please share it with them. Finally, if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel and click that notification bell so you don't miss our next deep dive into Hollywood history. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.